my God!
What is it?
Skeletons.
Skeletons!
Yes.
There's one problem with that.
What's that?
The Grail cannot pass beyond the Great Seal.
It's not the Grail.
That is the boundary, Pierce. That is the price of immortality.
For more than 2,000 years, the treasury of Petra has stood as one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. Carved directly into the rose-red cliffs of Jordan, this magnificent monument has inspired countless legends. But one story has survived longer than all the others: the belief that something valuable was hidden behind its ancient walls. For generations, local people whispered that the treasury was not just a tomb or a temple, but a secret vault containing the lost wealth of a forgotten pharaoh. That legend was fueled by the mysterious stone urn carved high above the entrance. Many believed that the urn held unimaginable riches, and over the years, desperate treasure hunters even fired bullets into it, hoping to break it open and reveal the gold they believed was trapped inside. Yet, when archaeologists examined the structure, they found no treasure hidden within. Instead, they uncovered an even greater mystery. What was the true purpose of the treasury? Was it a royal burial place built for Petra's elite rulers? Was it a sacred location used for ancient rituals? Or was something far more mysterious hidden beneath this legendary monument? Before we uncover the secrets buried beneath Petra's most famous structure, make sure to subscribe to our channel and help us reach our goal of 5,000 subscribers. Because what archaeologists discovered beneath the treasury would challenge everything we thought we knew about Petra. A secret that remained hidden for nearly 2,000 years was finally waiting to be uncovered. The mystery only deepened when archaeologists began looking at Petra as a whole. The Nabateans, the brilliant civilization that built this desert city, carved hundreds of structures directly into the cliffs surrounding the valley. Many of these rock-cut chambers were tombs, leading researchers to describe Petra as a city of the dead. Everywhere across the landscape, evidence of ancient burials appeared: hidden chambers, carved entrances, and forgotten resting places. Yet, among all these monuments, the treasury remained different. It was larger, more elaborate, and positioned at the very entrance of the city, almost as if it was meant to announce Petra's power to anyone who entered. This raised a haunting possibility among researchers. If Petra was already filled with hidden tombs, could its most famous monument also conceal something beneath the ground? For centuries, visitors arrived at Petra, walked through the narrow SEQ, stood before the breathtaking treasury, captured photographs, and left without ever wondering what might exist beneath their feet. But behind the scenes, archaeologists had long suspected that the visible structures were only part of the story. Local legends spoke of sealed rooms hidden inside the stone and underground spaces that had never been opened. Some claimed that certain areas near the treasury produced strange, hollow sounds when struck, as if empty spaces existed beneath the surface. Others spoke of places within the forecourt that people avoided at night, believing something hidden below made them dangerous. These stories were never officially proven, but they kept one question alive for generations. What secrets were still buried beneath Petra? For decades, archaeologists could only imagine what might be hidden below the treasury. They had theories, but no way to test them. Any attempt to investigate the ground beneath such an important monument was considered too dangerous. Then, the discovery of a possible hidden chamber changed everything. Suddenly, the impossible seemed possible. Evidence suggested that beneath the most photographed monument in Petra, there could be a sealed space that no living person had entered for nearly 2,000 years. And with that discovery came terrifying questions. Why was this chamber sealed? Who built it? Was it a forgotten royal tomb, a sacred underground vault, or something that ancient people wanted to disappear forever. But before archaeologists could uncover the truth, they faced an obstacle that seemed almost impossible to overcome: getting permission to dig beneath the treasury itself. The ground in front of the treasury, known as the forecourt, was considered almost untouchable. Every single day, thousands of visitors stood there, listened to stories from guides, and took pictures of one of the world's most famous archaeological wonders. Digging beneath that area was not just a scientific decision, it was a massive responsibility. One mistake could damage a monument that had survived for more than 2,000 years. For years, whenever archaeologists proposed excavation, the answer remained the same: no. The risks were simply considered too great. Authorities feared that disturbing the ground could weaken the structure of the treasury or cause irreversible damage to Jordan's most valuable historical site. The loss would not only be archaeological but also cultural and economic. Petra was more than an ancient city. It was a symbol of Jordan itself and one of the country's most important treasures. But archaeologists refused to give up. Year after year, teams returned with new proposals, improved technology, and safer methods. They argued that modern science had advanced enough to investigate the area without destroying it. They promised careful documentation, minimal disturbance, and complete respect for the ancient monument. Still, the response remained unchanged. The treasury was simply too important to risk. Then, after years of waiting, everything changed. In 2024, Jordan's Department of Antiquities finally approved a limited excavation beneath the treasury under some of the strictest conditions ever placed on an archaeological project. This was not a treasure hunt. Officials made that clear from the beginning. The mission was not to search for gold or legendary riches, but to uncover knowledge while protecting the monument at all costs. Every step of the excavation was carefully controlled. The trenches had to be completely reversible, meaning the area could be restored after the investigation. Every layer of soil removed had to be recorded. Every object, every fragment, and every tiny change in the ground had to be documented. The operation was treated less like a traditional excavation and more like a delicate medical procedure performed on an ancient patient. To make this possible, a team of experts from multiple organizations joined together. The Petra Development and Tourism Region Authority helped oversee the protection of the site. The Petra National Trust contributed local knowledge and ensured that the interests of the surrounding community were respected. The American Center of Research provided archaeological expertise and logistical support, while the University of St. Andrews brought advanced scanning and scientific analysis techniques. Together, they created a team capable of handling one of Petra's most sensitive investigations. But even with advanced technology and careful planning, fear remained. Some experts worried that even the smallest mistake could create cracks in the treasury's ancient stone. Some locals believed the Nabateans had sealed certain places for a reason, and warned that disturbing them could bring consequences no one could predict. Whether those fears came from scientific concerns or ancient beliefs, they created a heavy atmosphere around the excavation. Before a single stone could be moved, researchers needed answers. They needed to know what was waiting beneath the treasury without physically disturbing the ground. Digging blindly was never an option. So, instead of breaking into the earth, the archaeologists turned to modern technology, powerful, non-invasive scanning tools capable of looking beneath the surface and revealing the secrets that Petra had hidden for nearly 2,000 years. Anomaly C, the hidden chamber. Beneath Petra, faced with both an incredible opportunity and an enormous risk, the archaeologists knew one thing for certain: they could not simply start digging beneath the treasury. A careless move could damage one of the most important ancient monuments on Earth. Before a single stone was disturbed, they turned to advanced technology, using powerful scanning tools designed to look beneath the surface without causing any physical harm. The first method was ground-penetrating radar, a technology that sends electromagnetic pulses deep into the Earth and records how those signals return. By studying the changes in the researchers can identify differences in density, hidden structures, or empty spaces beneath the ground. Alongside this, resistivity surveys were used to measure how electrical currents moved through the soil, helping reveal areas where buried walls or underground cavities might exist. Magnetometry added another layer of information by detecting tiny changes in the Earth's magnetic field, changes that often appear where ancient civilizations have carved, built, or disturbed the landscape. Each method had limitations on its own, but together they created something archaeologists had never possessed before: a detailed picture of what might be hidden beneath the treasury. Inside a temporary research tent near the ancient monument, the first results began appearing on glowing computer screens. Lines, shadows, and strange patterns moved across the monitors as the team carefully studied every signal. To some researchers, the images almost resembled the rhythm of a heartbeat, each radar sweep revealing another pulse from beneath the ancient stone. At first, everything appeared normal. The scans revealed the familiar drainage channels that the Nabateans had carved into the landscape to protect the treasury from destructive floods. They also detected natural fractures within the sandstone, exactly the kind of features archaeologists expected to find. For a moment, some members of the team wondered if the technology would simply confirm what they already knew. Perhaps there was nothing hidden beneath Petra after all. Then, something changed. Among the ordinary geological patterns appeared a shape that immediately caught everyone's attention. It was different from everything around it, sharply defined, perfectly rectangular, and unusually consistent in its edges. This was not a natural crack. It was not a random formation created by time. It looked deliberate. It looked as if human hands had shaped it. At first, some researchers believed the equipment had produced an error. But when the same pattern appeared again and again in repeated scans, the atmosphere inside the research tent changed. Conversations stopped. Everyone realized they were looking at something that did not belong. Beneath the treasury was a structure unlike anything previously documented. The anomaly was larger than expected, positioned deeper than the known underground areas, and hidden in a location where no one had ever investigated before. Officially, the discovery was given a simple scientific designation: Anomaly C. But away from reports and technical documents, the archaeologists began giving it another name: the locked chamber. The name carried a strange weight. It suggested that this was not simply an empty space beneath the ground. It suggested intention. It suggested that the Nabateans had not only created this hidden area, but had also taken extraordinary measures to keep it closed. The scans revealed walls with edges too straight to be natural, and a void shaped too perfectly to be accidental. One researcher later described the feeling by saying, "It looked like someone created this room, and then made sure no one would ever enter it again." Almost immediately, theories began spreading. Some archaeologists believed the chamber could be a hidden burial place belonging to Petra's most powerful figures, perhaps a royal tomb that had remained untouched for centuries. Others suggested it might have been part of an unknown underground water system designed to control the flow of water beneath the city. But local legends created even darker possibilities. Stories passed down through generations claimed that the Nabateans sometimes sealed underground spaces for reasons beyond protection. Some believed certain chambers were closed to contain disease, dangerous objects, forbidden knowledge, or remains connected to ancient rituals. None of these ideas could be proven. Yet, the uncertainty made the discovery even more disturbing. The scans had answered one important question. Something was definitely there. But they created an even bigger mystery. What was hidden beneath the treasury? The only way to find out was excavation. But this was not an ordinary archaeological dig. Every layer of soil removed would bring the team closer to a chamber that the Nabateans may have intentionally hidden from the world forever. Breaking the seal, a descent into darkness. When excavation finally began, the atmosphere surrounding the treasury changed completely. Everyone understood that this was not just another archaeological project. They were opening a place that had remained untouched for nearly 2,000 years. At the beginning, the team used traditional tools to carefully remove the upper layers of soil. But as they approached the location of the hidden structure, their methods became even more precise. Heavy equipment was abandoned. Metal tools were replaced with soft brushes and wooden instruments, ensuring that nothing beneath the surface could be scratched, damaged, or accidentally destroyed. The excavation became a slow and delicate process. Every movement was calculated. Every layer of earth was treated like a page from an ancient book that could never be replaced once torn. Soil was removed only a few centimeters at a time. Each sample was carefully collected, photographed, labeled, and recorded. Tiny fragments of pottery, pieces of charcoal, and even the smallest traces of ancient activity were preserved for future analysis. The team worked in carefully planned shifts, avoiding unnecessary pressure or speed. The entire operation resembled surgery more than excavation, a careful procedure where patience mattered more than progress. As they moved deeper, the soil became heavier and more compact. Centuries of pressure had compressed the earth, making every step slower and more difficult. Then something appeared, something that changed everything. Beneath the layers of soil, the first signs of human construction began to emerge. Carved stone steps slowly appeared, descending into the darkness below. Then came the walls. Smooth, carefully shaped stone surfaces rose from the earth, holding back the surrounding soil as if the builders had designed this place to remain sealed forever. The discovery shocked the team. This was not a temporary hiding place. It was not a rough underground shelter. The construction was precise. The stones had been carefully cut and fitted together so tightly that almost no gaps remained. The chamber had been closed with a level of care that suggested permanence. Some archaeologists believed it looked less like a simple sealed room and more like a deliberate entombment. And that raised the most disturbing question of all. Who sealed this chamber, and what were they trying to hide? One theory suggested that the workers who closed the chamber may have known exactly what was inside. Perhaps lower-class laborers or enslaved workers were ordered to place the final stones, while aware that something, or someone, remained trapped beyond them. Another possibility was even darker. Perhaps Nabatean elites themselves ordered the chamber to be sealed, not to honor the dead, but to erase something they wanted forgotten, a crime, a tragedy, or a secret they believed should never reach the outside world. The perfection of the seal suggested something more powerful than respect. It suggested fear. Whoever closed this chamber wanted it removed from human memory. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for. The sealed cavity finally opened. As cameras recorded the event, cold air escaped from the darkness below. It carried the smell of dust and time, air that had been trapped underground for nearly 2,000 years. One archaeologist later described the sensation as feeling like breathing in the past itself. Another admitted that stepping toward the opening felt strangely uncomfortable, almost as if they were entering a place that was never meant to be disturbed. And as the first lights entered the hidden chamber, new questions emerged. What had the Nabateans sealed away? A tomb? A forgotten ritual space? A place of protection? Or something far more disturbing? Theories spread quickly. Some researchers believed it could have been a ceremonial chamber. Local stories suggested that the Nabateans sometimes sealed certain locations not to preserve them, but to protect the living from what was hidden inside. Some legends claimed underground rooms were used to contain outbreaks of disease, preventing contamination from spreading. Others suggested that forbidden objects, dangerous idols, or lost writings may have been hidden away and sealed to prevent their misuse. A few even believed such places carried spiritual significance, where the remains of the restless dead were trapped behind stone walls. None of these theories could be confirmed, but every possibility carried the same unsettling feeling. This was not simply an empty underground space. The chamber beneath the treasury was larger, more intentional, and far more mysterious than anyone had expected. And as the archaeologists prepared to move deeper inside, they realized they were no longer searching for a forgotten room. They were about to uncover a secret that Petra had protected for nearly 2,000 years. The tomb in the shadow of the treasury. Once the opening was considered safe, the team finally stepped beyond the ancient barrier that had protected the hidden chamber for nearly 2,000 years. Carrying powerful lights and moving with extreme caution, the archaeologists entered a space that no modern human had witnessed before. But what they found immediately proved that this was not a natural cave or an accidental hollow inside the rock. The chamber had been carefully designed and constructed by human hands. Every surface showed signs of planning and purpose. The walls were shaped with precision, and small openings had been carved at regular intervals along the stone surfaces. These features were not random decorations. In Nabatean burial traditions, such spaces were often used to hold offerings, symbolic objects, or even additional remains connected to the dead. The more the team examined the chamber, the clearer one thing became. This place had not been created by accident. It was a planned space, built with a specific purpose that had been forgotten by time. The arrangement, the architecture, and the careful construction suggested that whoever created this underground room had invested significant effort into making it last. Then came the moment that completely changed the atmosphere inside the chamber. The first human remains appeared. Beneath the soft glow of the excavation lights, a skeleton emerged from the darkness. It was lying on a low stone platform, almost perfectly preserved. The bones were still connected in their original position, the skull resting above the spine, the arms placed along the sides, and the legs extended below. There were no signs of disturbance, no evidence that anyone had entered the chamber after the burial. The discovery sent a wave of silence through the team. This was not a disturbed grave. This was a burial that had remained untouched. A short distance away, another skeleton appeared in a similar position. As more of the chamber was revealed, the number of individuals continued to rise. At least 12 people had been placed inside this hidden room. Some were adults, while others were much smaller, likely children. But what surprised researchers most was not simply the number of remains. It was the way they had been arranged. Unlike the chaotic remains found in many ancient burial sites, these individuals had not been thrown into the chamber carelessly. They had been placed deliberately, each one positioned with intention. Some rested alone inside carved niches, while others were positioned together in pairs, possibly suggesting family relationships or connections between them. Around the skeletons, archaeologists discovered objects that added even more mystery to the chamber. A small bowl rested near one individual's hand. A ceramic jar was positioned near another person's feet. In the surrounding soil, researchers found traces of bronze and iron, possibly the remains of jewelry, clothing attachments, or burial items that had decayed over centuries. One of the most unusual discoveries was a skeleton with a ceramic vessel pressed against its ribs. The position was so precise that it almost appeared as if the person had been holding the object during their final moments. These objects were not treasures in the traditional sense. There were no mountains of gold or priceless artifacts. Instead, they appeared to have symbolic importance. Their value was not measured by wealth, but by meaning. Yet, what disturbed the archaeologists most was not what they found inside the chamber. It was what they did not find. There were no signs of later disturbance. Unlike many of Petra's known tombs, which had suffered from looting, floods, and centuries of exposure, this chamber had remained sealed. A layer of sediment had acted almost like a natural lock, preserving the arrangement exactly as it had been left thousands of years earlier. The air inside was ancient and unmoving. The walls showed no obvious damage. Everything appeared frozen in time. For archaeologists who were used to discovering broken pottery, scattered bones, and damaged remains, this level of preservation felt almost unnatural. Several researchers later described the silence inside the chamber as one of the most unsettling experiences of their careers. It felt as if time itself had stopped, and they were standing inside a story that was never meant to be reopened. Because of the fragile condition of the remains, the excavation slowed even further. Every bone was photographed and mapped. Every object was carefully removed, labeled, and preserved for future study. Nothing could be rushed. Every discovery had the potential to answer questions that had remained unanswered for centuries. But as the team continued their investigation, they began to realize something disturbing. This chamber was only one part of a much larger mystery. Beneath the treasury, hidden deeper within the earth, there was another sealed space, a place where no light had entered for generations. And what waited inside would change everything they thought they knew. The sealed room, a horrifying revelation. When the second sealed chamber was finally opened, the mood inside the excavation changed completely. This was no longer the quiet discovery of an ancient burial site. The moment the barrier was breached, a wave of trapped air escaped from the darkness below. The atmosphere was heavy, stale, and overwhelming. Archaeologists immediately covered their faces with protective equipment, but even through their masks, the strange odor remained, a mixture of decay, ash, and something unfamiliar that made the air feel almost impossible to breathe. One researcher later described the sensation as feeling like inhaling the remains of a forgotten tragedy. Then, the first lights entered. What they revealed was unlike anything found in the previous chamber. The walls were darkened and covered with streaks of black soot, suggesting that fire had once burned inside the room. The evidence of flames raised immediate questions. Was the chamber damaged by an accident? Was something burned intentionally? Or had fire played a role in whatever happened here?